Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is working on a little bit of Gamesalad and get you guys used to what's going on here. So we're going to open up Gamesalad like we have here. If you're not sure where it is, go down to the launch pad, which should be in the bottom left corner. Usually launch pad's there, it has a little rocket on it. Once you do that, you can go into here, click Gamesalad. It should pop right up for you. And you should have your login information on the screen right in front of you. Go ahead and put that in if it's asking for it. If not, it should save it. And we're going to make a blank project. Okay, new blank project here. So a few things to keep in mind as you're going through this blank project. You have project info. We're going to just call this, let's see, test lab. And we're going to go back to this thing every once in a while. For now, we're just kind of learning stuff, so we'd like to have as much a screen as possible. So we're going to take away iPhone 5 or 6 or anything like that. You can see all the resolutions for various tablets and other devices on here. We're going to go with MacBook, or you could go with 720p HD if you really wanted to, in case you wanted to develop something for the Apple TV or something along those lines. But we're just going to go with MacBook for right now. That gives us a lot of space to work with, a nice large screen. If you want to drop something into the description, you can. It doesn't really matter at this point. And at this point, we're not going to mess with the multiplayer beta, so I'd leave that alone. We're going to go here and click on Scenes. We're going to go into the initial scene. And you can see everything you need right here for any kind of Gamesalad game. This is one scene. A scene could be a pause screen. It could be a menu screen. It could be an actual level from the game. It can be multiple things. So a scene is kind of an overarching idea for everything you would see in the game. Right here we have all of the behaviors for anything that you'd like to be able to do. Accelerate and move are a couple we're going to be looking at it pretty quick here. And also change attribute. That's a pretty important one that we're going to look at here in just a little bit. First, we want to make an actor. We're just going to hit plus and that'll pop an actor up right here. We're going to double click on that actor and we're going to go to the name. We're going to rename this guy Platform because we want him to be something we can stand on. And we want to take a look at a few things here. For position, this is your X and Y coordinates inside the scene, inside a little level or the pause screen or whatever you're making. The size, 100 by 100 is the default for most everything. Since this is going to be a platform, we want it to be pretty wide. So I'm going to set it for 300 and the height to just be 10. When we hit that, you'll see that it just stretches out and gets real thin real quick. So that makes things a little bit easier for us when we're placing it. I'm going to go into the color right now. Now in color you can see that there's R, G, B, and A. So red, green, blue. Since we're working with light, this is what we're going to mix together is red, green, and blue, just like your TV. And then we also have alpha. Alpha is something that you can use to make things fade out or seem a little bit transparent. But if you want to make things easier for yourself, you can just click on the little box here and it'll pop up a color picker. You can pull it over to whatever color you like. I like red for my platforms, so I'm just going to make it red. And then in physics, this is probably the most important part of the attributes most of the time. We have density, friction, bounciness, fixed rotation, and movable. Now, we don't want our platform to be movable, so we're going to uncheck that. And since it's unchecked, we really shouldn't have to worry too much about fixed rotation. But just to be safe, I'm going to check that so it doesn't just start spinning whenever we land on it. Everything else is pretty normal, and we're going to go back. And we have our first actor called Platform. Now we're going to make another one. It's going to be called, we're going to open that one up. It's going to be called Player. All right, Player has all the same kind of setup as everything else. I kind of want it to be a little bit different, so I'm going to set the width to 50. Whoops, 50. There we go. And height to 100 is fine. It's just now it kind of looks like a, the profile of a person or a door, depending on which way you want to look at it, but makes it a little bit easier to understand. Hey, I'm standing up straight. We're going to leave density alone, friction alone, bounciness alone. Fixed rotation, we're probably going to check fixed rotation, but just for fun, let's leave it off. And we also want it to be movable, so we're going to leave that checked. Collision shape and these other things down here, I wouldn't worry too much about. Drag, angular drag, can sleep, better collisions. We'll play with those later. But for right now, let's leave movable on. All right, so we're going to go back and build the scene real quick. We're back here, and I'm going to spread this platform out so we have something to land on. And I'm going to bring our player in, and let's hit preview and see what happens. Absolutely nothing, because we haven't really coordinated any kind of interaction between these guys. So I'm going to go back into the player, And we're going to need to do something right away. We need to make something happen. So one of the first things you want to do in any kind of platformer or game is try and figure out, well, what are some forces that are going to act on you all the time? Now, you're probably experiencing a force right now, and you didn't even know it, or don't even think about it, and that's gravity. Okay? And to change any of these little blocks that we have here for our behaviors, you can just tap right on the name, and it'll allow you to change that name for you. I would suggest doing that as much as possible so you know what things you're supposed to do. If you have move left, move right, I would retitle those as instead of just a rule or something like that, we should change those to left, right, jump, gravity, react, things like that. So it's always a good idea. So direction, if you see direction in Gamesalad, it's using a 360 setup, 360 degrees setup, and 0 will be to the right, 180 will be to the left, 90 will be straight up and down, and 270 will be down. Oh, well, 90 is straight up and down. No, 90 is straight up. So let me correct that real quick. The thing to keep in mind here is if you're not really sure what to do, this little dial can actually point you in the right direction. Okay, so probably want to change it just so you're not going in a crazy direction, but 180 would be to the left, and 0 would be to the right. You can see how the little dial changes. And in our case, we want the force to go straight down. So 270, straight down. I'm going to give it an acceleration of 300. And we're going to make this relative to the actor right now just to show you something. Okay, so let's see. Fixed rotation is off. And let's just see what happens. Whoop, didn't need to save. We do want to save. Command S is our save. And we want to make sure we save as often as possible because there's no autosave on here, which is fun. All right, we're going to hit play. And nothing happens. Nothing, just pass right through each other. That's always fun. So we need to make them touch each other and collide. So guess what? There's a behavior called collide. We're going to bring collide in. It already has platform in there because it's the only other actor other than player. And you really don't want to have player collide with player at this point because you just want one player, right? So we'll hit preview now. And what do we get? Oh, right on. So we got a little bouncing guy. And for any of you guys who are paying attention to the physics attributes inside of your actor, we're going to go fix that right now. We're going to try a few things out. So first off, I think it'd be kind of fun. Let's back over to the platform. And I'm going to turn movable on and fixed rotation off. And let's just see what that looks like. Hey, cool. You might actually want that to happen in your game. So just wanted to show that to you real quick. And we'll watch it again because it's fun. It's a little satisfying. It's fun to look at. All right, so we're going to go ahead and make sure that movable is unchecked for any platforms or walls or anything we want to make sure do not move. And we're going to check fixed rotation. Now you see right here we have bounciness set for 1. You can actually increase that quite a bit. So if you want some kind of jump pad or launch pad, you can turn bounciness on for that specific actor, and you can crank it up. If you want to, you can crank it up to 5. And looks like bounciness will only allow us to go to 2, but yep, 2 is the highest for bounciness. Let's see what happens when we hit this. Whoa, he goes off the screen. So I think what we're really going to need here is change this to 0. Now you can't set it to negative. I'm going to try it just to show you. -1. Nope, it's going to go ahead and set itself to 0. So now wait a second. It doesn't bounce as high for sure, but it's still bouncing. So what we really need to do is change it for both. We got to change it for both actors. That's one thing that you have to change on both to make sure that you get everything. And I'm going to hit preview, and it just lands. So, okay, we're in good shape now, right? So this is not a whole lot of fun just seeing this happen over and over again. What we probably need to do is give this thing some motion. So what we'll want to do is we're going to give this guy some control. So we have gravity right now. We're using accelerate for gravity. Gravity is something that as soon as you jump out, you accelerate towards the ground. So that's the reason we wanted to use accelerate here. It starts off slow, it builds speed, and then it reaches its top speed. Right here, the top speed would be 300 pixels per second. And depending on how high you set the acceleration, that's how fast it's going to accelerate to it as well. So it's not just the top speed, but it's also how fast it'll get to it. So now what we want to do is start looking at how to make controls. So to make controls, we have to set conditions or create rules. So you can create a rule up here, right at this create rule button in the interface itself. Or you can go to rule right here in the behaviors and drag one in. They're exactly the same. There's nothing different about it. It's just whatever's easiest for you to get to. So we'll delete that one. You just go to the little X here and that'll get rid of that. And let's take a look at a few things. We have actor receives event. This is something you're going to be using probably quite a bit. We may also use attribute. We may look for attributes to change from time to time. But for right now, we just want to get something from the keyboard. So right here, after you select actor receives event, you'll have some other options. Everything's contextual, so if you select something, you'll only get options that fit with that particular option that you want to use. So we have mouse position. That's wherever the mouse is going to be on the screen. Touch, that's going to be for tablets, iPads, phones, things like that. Overlaps or collides is what we see whenever the our player actor lands on our platform actor and they touch each other and realize, hey, I'm colliding with you, I'm not supposed to pass through you. So that's an example of overlaps or collides, but that's one that gets used quite a bit. Auto rotation, something for your phone or your iPad. Key is what we're going to use today, but I want to talk about mouse button as well. That's right clicking and left clicking. And hibernate is another one we probably won't use because that's talking about if your phone gets shut off or if your phone gets a call, your game will automatically go into hibernate. So we're going to use key. And like I was saying, contextually, it's going to pop up some keys here. The keyboard pops up now, and we can select anything you want. You could be bound to any key on here that you feel like. I prefer to use AWSD for moving around, so I'm going to choose A. And for all you gamers out there, A usually means going left, so I'm going to change this one to left. I'm going to grab accelerate, bring it in, and if we want to go left, we can use the dial and we can bring it over to point to the left, and I'll clean this up a little bit so it says 180. If you go 182 or 178, you're going to end up going off at an angle, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to change the acceleration to 200 so we can kind of get moving, and we're going to make this relative to the actor still. Now we're going to change this in just a second, and you're going to see why we might want to do that. I'm also going to make sure fixed rotation is not on, and we're going to try out a few things here. To kind of see how this is going to work, I'm going to also go back and we're going to make another actor. This one I like to have walls as well, so I'm going to make a wall. Okay, I'm going to color it purple. That's a nice shade of purple right there. And we're going to go into size, and we're going to make the height 300 and the width 10, just like we did with the platform, except we're doing it a little bit backwards. Okay, so we got a nice tall long thing. We're going to go into physics. I do not want it to be movable. I'll leave the bounciness on because that's kind of fun for right now, and we're going to leave this alone. Now if we want the wall to interact with the player, we got to go back to the player and we got to get another collide in here. Now you could drag another collide in, or something that could be really helpful is hold down Alt Option on your keyboard, click on the thing that you want to make a copy of and drag it down, and you'll make a copy of it directly. So you can do the same thing here with left, and we're going to as soon as we start making our right controls. So we want this thing to collide with the wall as well as the platform, so we're going to say that. And I'm going to go back to the scene, and I'm going to drag in a couple walls. Okay, and you can set these wherever you like. Same thing as the behaviors, you can use Alt Option to copy things and move them around. And we'll set one right there, and another one right there. And then I want to drag my actor so it kind of hits the edge of this thing whenever we hit play, so we can see something that happens here. Ready? Here we go. Okay, so it just bounces. Okay, I actually want that thing to spin a little bit, so we have movable, fixed rotation is not on there. I probably have it on too much of an edge. Let's try this right here. There we go, that's what I wanted. I wanted it to kind of spin around. Now bounciness is definitely still set on the wall, so it's going to spin up in the air, and it should come down at some point. But I will say, if you have something go off the screen while you're previewing it, a lot of times you've lost it. So if you want to make sure that you don't lose things off the screen, more than likely what you're going to want to do is put a box around it, or you can play with the camera. We're going to play with that a little bit later. But let's restart it again. Let's see what happens here. There we go. It goes flying off. Good stuff. And with the player, we have everything set the way we want it to be. I'm pretty okay with that. We just don't necessarily want it to land there. But if you wanted something to flip around, you just want to see that it spins or anything, then we want to see it jump around like that. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit more and put him right there. This should make it so he doesn't go off the screen, I believe. There we go. Nope, he still floats away. So more than likely what we need to do is change the gravity on this guy. And we'll probably change it to like 400. Well, you know what? Actually, we don't have to do that because our gravity has been relative to our actor. So that's probably why that thing's not calming down. Let's try this again. There we go. There we go. Now he's settling. Okay. So the issue now is, well, we can't go left or right because it's relative to the actor. And now the actor, let's see, if we're going left, can't tell which side is which once he starts spinning. So let's make our right too. Now to do that, I'm just going to click and drag this guy down. The other way, if we want to go to the right, is 0. Okay, and we want to change the keyboard key to D because D is usually to the right. I'm going to change this to right. Now we're probably going to have another problem here, and we're doing this on purpose so you guys can see this. Okay, so there we go. It's only going to the right because that's the last way it went, and it's not doing anything. Why would that be? Well, let's turn this off. Let's turn on fixed rotation so it doesn't flip around. We see it bounce. Now we can move to left or right. But the reason we weren't able to do it before is because on accelerate, gravity up here was set for 300, but our movement was only 200. So we couldn't actually escape gravity with our movement. Well, let's see if we can escape gravity by making a jump now. So we're going to take one of these. We're going to hit Alt Option and bring it down. And we're going to make a jump. Okay, we got everything we need already set up. We're going to go to the keyboard, and it's fun to have everything close together. I'm just going to set it for spacebar. That makes things a little easier. And for the direction, I'm going to set it for 90 because we want it to go straight up, right? Okay, now I'm going to set it for the exact same amount as our gravity, 300. And you can place your bets right now whether you think this is going to work or not. But let's see. Okay, so we move off. And it comes down, and I cannot get off the ground. Just can't. Okay, you can see it maybe even jump just a tiny, tiny bit. But we're going to need to escape gravity. So much like a rocket, we got to put out more force than gravity is exerting on us. So I want to set that to 400. And now we're okay. Now I can float in the air if I want to. I'll just hold it down, and I'll shoot up into the sky eventually. Okay, so this might be some functionality you want. Maybe you have a jetpack game, and Accelerate is a great way to do that. You want to, maybe you have a space game and you're trying to get your ship around a planet, and you want to have that kind of set up where you're having to fire the rockets before you hit the ground kind of thing. So this would work really well. Accelerate would be the movement type you'd want to use. Okay. Now one issue we're having right now is that well, we maybe just want to have a different type of movement. Now there is another type of movement you can use, and it's called move. And there's actually a couple other different types of movement, but these are the ones that are readily available without having to change anything too much. So I'm going to go ahead and take a move from the behavior over here on the left side. I'm going to drop it in. I'm going to turn Accelerate off. Okay. So since that's going to the left, we're going to say 180 here. We're going to leave that relative to the actor. At this point, it's going to make sure that whatever's going on is relative to where the actor is going. If you set it relative to the scene, that means no matter which way the actor is facing, it's always going to move left or right relative to the scene. So we have gravity acting that way right now. If we did it with it relative to the actor, if it spun around, then as it went upside down, gravity would actually take it up into the sky. So we don't necessarily want to do that right now. Almost going to have move come down here. And we want to switch that up to 0 since that's what we want it to do. And let's see, we're set for 300 for move. Let's keep it at the same here. And I'm even going to change jump so we have that as well. Okay, in this case we're going to have it go 90. Now, I know what you're saying. You're like, hey, Hammontree, this thing is not going to have enough power to escape gravity, and yet you decided to go ahead and set it up a little lower. Well, guess what? I think you're going to be wrong. Okay, so I can move. Now you'll notice the movement's already different. It doesn't really seem to go down when we go left or right. Okay, and if I press spacebar, look at that. It goes straight up. That's because movement is actually, or move, is higher up on the whole movement ladder than accelerate. If you had move going up against accelerate in any capacity, move is always going to win. I could set move to 10 and it would be able to push accelerate out of the way. So thinking in game terms, if you needed something to push your player or other characters out of the way, or you wanted to push them over, or constantly have them ahead of something, and if they get caught up in it, it is going to throw them up in the air or something like that, you'd want to use move, because move would allow them to push any accelerate behavior out of the way. Okay. Now you'll notice I'm kind of faking some things here. Like if it goes down, it's still just going to go like that. Now it kind of looks like it's going at an angle when we do that. Oh, that's interesting. But usually move will not allow two different forces to act on it at the same time. Now you notice gravity will not allow it to go down to the side, but if I press jump, it will. Okay. But usually it will not allow two forces to act on it at the same time. So we're going to go back and I'm going to show you how we do this to make everything work together. You want that nice arc of a jump. Okay. We want that jump to look really, really normal, natural. Okay. So what we're going to do with that is I'm going to show you how to change an attribute. Okay. So we're going to grab change attributes over here in the behavior section. I'm going to grab change attribute and I'm going to leave these off. I don't need them right now. And we're going to go down into the attributes of your player character. Now if you go into the attribute browser, you have game items. Now this is something that everything in the game can see, and then you have things just the actor uses. In this case, we're going to see the name of the actor. This one's player. So we'll be able to see all the attributes and be able to adjust them from inside change attribute. In this case, we're going to go to motion. We're looking for linear velocity, and we're only looking for the X velocity there. So we're only going left and right. And in this case, we're not looking at direction. We're not looking at degrees. So now we can actually use negative numbers. So since we're going to the left, I'm going to do negative 200. And because I'm lazy, we're going to drag this and bring it down here. And since we're going to the right, now it's positive, so we're just going to use 200. And I'll use change attribute for my jump too, so I'm going to put it down here. Now in this case, you do need to be stronger than the gravity. So our gravity right now is 300. So I'm going to set motion linear velocity. Now we need to change this one because we're not going left and right, right? We're going up and down. So we need to change linear velocity to linear velocity Y. And I'm going to set this for 400. Okay, now let's see what happens. Okay, so we're jumping around now. And if I let this thing settle, okay, we're doing pretty good. Good deal. And I can just keep going and going if I want to. Just little bursts. And gravity will bring us back down. Now if I hold it down, it is eventually going to come back down, which is kind of nice. But if I keep tapping it, it's going to keep flying up in the air. Okay, so just different types of movement. May or may not want those, but those will get you the different types of movement you want. Now, really, as far as movement goes, I want this thing to stop moving when I let off on the key, right? You don't want the thing to just slide off the edge, unless you have like an ice level or something like that. And you see it slowing down. That's because of friction. If I go in here and I change friction to 0, this guy's just going to keep rolling around, sliding around on things for days. So if I go here and bounce him off of that and let him run back and forth, he's just going to keep going. He has no friction to slow him down, so he's just going to keep bouncing back and forth. Now this could be something you might want to use in the game, maybe not, but it could accomplish something you might need, say a piece of the set that moves back and forth and shoots, or maybe you want something that just bounces off the walls and goes back and forth, just like a turtle shell in Super Mario Brothers. This would be a way to set that up. So let's make it so we can stop. Okay, now one thing about a rule is it has something down at the bottom called an otherwise, and this is going to be the last thing for our video. And the rule is basically saying, if this is true, then do this. If this isn't true, then I want you to do this other thing over here. That's what otherwise is used for. So if A is down, we want to go to the left 200. We want to go 200 pixels per second. That's basically what 200, 300, these numbers are meaning is. We're going pixels. So what I'm going to do is grab that, I'm going to hit Alt-Option, drag my change attribute down here. And if I want to stop, all I got to do is hit 0. Stop, 0, nothing, no movement. That's what we want. Okay. And then we're going to go down here, and we're going to do the same thing. We want to stop as soon as we let off on that key. So I'm going to hit preview, and as soon as I let off on the key, that thing stops moving. So if I hit jump and I move in the air, it works. Okay, but I'm not gonna. Nothing else is gonna act on this once I let off on the key. Okay, still got my jump. Still move around. I can change direction in the air. Everything's working okay. All right, guys. So this is going to be our first little run into Gamesalad, and hopefully you guys got some good stuff out of that. And if you have any questions, you can respond to my email. You have it if you're in my class, and we'll see you in class. Okay, we're done. Bye.